This video is a look at the Ravens' 10th possession in their 27-19 win over the Vikings. I'm talking about their 11-play, 67-yard drive, really led off by Derrick Henry, heavy usage of Derrick Henry, runs into the boundary in heavy personnel groups. It was after Minnesota had closed to 19-13 late in the third quarter. We had a missed field goal earlier in the third quarter. To that point, here's what the offense had done in 9 possessions. 4 punts, all 3 and outs. 3 first-half field goals. And look, Lamar was brilliant on the third one. I could have done a possession video on that one. I'm talking about his throws late in the third quarter to get us down there and help close to within 10-9. He had the completions to, I think, Justice Hill underneath first, Likely out towards the sideline. Remember when Likely kind of dives over a defender, touches the ball out of bounds to stop the clock. And then his kind of very lofted throw, almost third gear throw over the linebacker level to Zay Flowers, where he ends up, I think, getting out of bounds. That puts us in field goal position. Of course, we were very fortunate. The penalty called on Dallas Turner on the sack for roughing gave Tyler Loop essentially a chip shot. But along with those 4 punts and the 3 first-half field goals, we did have a short field touchdown earlier in the third quarter. If you recall, Lamar actually had 3 runs to open that drive, and then we had the brilliant sticks completion to Bateman. Stick splits 0, 7 or 8 guys lined up on the line of scrimmage. It's the play that Bateman gets hurt on. So Lamar was executing, but the offense overall was inconsistent, in my opinion. Oh, by the way, we also had the missed field goal, 56-yarder, 55-yarder, something like that, after stopping them on downs. So like I said, this is our 10th drive, up 19-13, 2:16 left in the third quarter specifically when this one starts. I'll give you the down and distance, normally in the bottom left, but I generally have to consider the background. I don't like to put it over top of a yellow color. Hopefully it shows up nice and bright for you guys. 21 personnel group for the Ravens. So you've got Henry and Ricard as the 2 running backs, and then Andrews as the tight end. Definitely featured play-action passing on 1st and 10 here. Using the gravity of Henry, if you will, he actually ends up getting the football. Looks like a zone structure for the Vikings, with Wilson, the OLB or hybrid inside linebacker, outside linebacker, kind of dropping out. You got 3 routes kind of nice in a lane for Lamar. So first of all, Flowers, the deeper one, and then intermediate, still short really for Andrews, and then super short in the case of Henry. Lamar takes that one, throws it underneath to Henry. I don't think he was throwing this one to Andrews, but I could be wrong. People are welcome to have their own interpretation. In any case, it generates 8 yards, and it's a quick throw from Lamar on a play action on 1st and 10. Very next snap is a 2nd and 2 with the ball still on the right hash, illustrated by that blue line. Again, 21 personnel. In fact, the same exact formation. The only difference is we shift or move Ricard and Andrews from one side. This will be slot lion with the fullback offset to the left. And it becomes slot ram. People have different names for it, but that's the terminology that I'm aware of. Lead zone to Henry for 14 yards. So we did this a couple of times in the game, I think 3 times. Shift the tight end and Ricard over. First couple of times the Vikings saw it, they didn't really react well. This is one of them. So we caught them. We catch them here, in my opinion. One of the things they've been doing lately is taking one of the inside linebackers' pace, especially to the boundary, and kind of walking him up. And then in some cases, tagging that or matching that with Metellus, the safety, walking up into the box. So they've really functionally kind of created almost like a 6-2. Ricard gets up to Metellus quickly. Obviously, that's a mismatch in our favor. Cashman almost kind of blocks himself. I'll give you the end zone angle so you can see what I'm talking about. Talking about this guy here with the combo from Linderbaum and Voorhees. 14-yard gain by Henry, who was obviously a big part of the game plan for this particular drive. Same play, we've already had the shift occur. There's Ricard on the right, Andrews there as well. Again, pace is off screen to our right. Normally you'd have 2 inside linebackers generally located in those 2 areas there. In this case, Cashman is the only inside linebacker, and they walk Metellus up, trying to create kind of like that 6-2. It doesn't work out because I think we get a really nice combo here. In addition, on this drive, I feel like Monken, by formation and manipulation of the defense, did a really nice job creating angles for some of our offensive linemen. I think we've got Rosengarten here who's chasing after Dallas Turner, and then Falele taking the D tackle out of there. You can see the lane that's developing for Henry right behind Ricard. He was kind of pushing Ricard out of the way here. He was really right up on top of him. I think that's because Ricard hesitated for a moment because there was some congestion and traffic off the right side. On to the third snap now. At this point, Henry obviously has 2 touches for 22 yards. 21 personnel again, so Ricard and Andrews still on the field along with Henry. Now the formation presents as different initially. It looks like bunch to the bottom side, but once Ricard motions over, he's essentially in the eye. I'm talking about as the ball is snapped. Nice design on the pass pro using Ricard and Henry against the edge defender into the boundary of the top side of our screen. This is going to be a quick completion to Hopkins over the middle. I think he actually gets hurt on this one. This looks designed to me. There's not really much else available for us. I mean, perhaps later on, depending on coverage, Bateman has got this route here. Andrews on an outside release. This, to me, looks like a quick completion to Hopkins to just keep us moving forward. It ends up being a 9-yard gain. So we got 3 plays so far. Same personnel, 21. Different receivers cycling in and out, don't get me wrong, but Ricard and Henry and a tight end, sometimes Kolar, sometimes Andrews may be likely. And almost the exact same formation. Again, once Ricard motions over, he essentially ends up in the eye just in front of Derrick Henry. Linderbaum and Voorhees, in my opinion, get beat by this split here. I think it's the nose tackle kind of canted in the A-gap. Voorhees shifts out to his left, kind of sliding to possibly help out Stanley, and just has his arm up. It looks to me like maybe Linderbaum is expecting a little bit more help. Falele tries to peel back a little bit too late. Thankfully, we're in a quick game mode for Lamar to get rid of the ball fast over the middle because that D tackle was basically going to have an opportunity to sack or quarterback hit. I think Monken did a really nice job with this play call and two snaps ago basically taking advantage of this look by the Vikings where they walk one of their inside linebackers up either to create a 6-2 or in some cases a 6-1. So what I'm talking about is they've essentially left Cashman as the lone inside linebacker and Monken through formation and personnel. By the way, it's 21 personnel again, same formation, slot lion. Lion meaning the fullback is canted or off to the left-hand side of the midline. And this is really cool, man. I would call this a wind back run. It only goes for 5 yards. I thought it was bigger live. During my tracking for the game, I had it as 10, and that was incorrect. I think I had it as the 41 when it should have been the 36. But in any case, Ricard moving up to the lone inside linebacker. Here, Wilson, the second inside linebacker, has now moved back into the box. So you can see initially he's set up to their left-hand side, our right into the boundary, and then he comes back to create this 2 inside linebacker structure. But we still do a really nice job of getting up to him. The angles that are created, Voorhees down on this nose tackle, Linderbaum up to that inside linebacker, Wilson, who initially lined up as an OLB to the boundary, and then Falele kind of getting stood up a little bit, but he's got that defensive tackle in good position. You can see the lane that is created for Henry after he initially flows to the right. That's why I call it a wind back run. In addition, Voorhees gets beat by that defensive tackle, so that's part of the reason why Henry cuts it back so violently. Give you the same play from the all-22 angle. Sometimes I like to present the end zone angle first, and then the all-22. It should be obvious, why I'm doing that. But in any case, like I said, it's a 2nd and 1 after the completion to Hopkins for 9 yards. Henry initially going to flow to his right, the top side of our screen, and then because that defensive tackle was able to cross Voorhees' face, basically he cannot take him down enough, that creates the need for Henry immediately to cut this back while he's still in the backfield. I think it gives you an idea of what we're talking about sometimes with the inconsistency of our offensive line. Henry shouldn't have to make a cut 2.5 yards in the backfield because of defensive tackle penetration. In this case, he made it work. We still got 5 yards and a new set of downs. Really pure evil here from Monken and the Ravens offense from a structural standpoint. We're into the 4th quarter. That was the previous play, the 5-yard gain by Henry was the last snap of the 3rd. We've gone 21 personnel, slot lion or slot ram, the first 4 plays of this drive. He comes out. You have to think that to some degree, Minnesota was talking about what to do to try to stop 21 personnel in the run game, specifically Derrick Henry. And we come out on the first play of the fourth quarter, and we go 11 personnel. I'll give you the all-22 angle in a moment. We flip sides for Henry, and look, the answer that Minnesota came up with, I'm not saying it's a good one. Basically, it's the same stunt they used against the Lions so much. 2 inside linebacker blitzes, and then both OLBs, I suspect, would be dropping out. Van Ginkel doesn't drop out as abruptly as Dallas Turner does. It's a zone read. And so with the OLB dropping out of here, Turner, obviously this makes it a clear give read for Lamar with a whole in between the quarters to think about. Mug the inside linebackers, again, creating great angles for us. The only guy who we have that could really do what he does here is Ronnie Stanley. I mean, from an athletic, maybe Rosengarten, but I don't know if Rosengarten could get this accomplished. So what I mean is great angles for all of these guys to take their man down. And I think Rosengarten actually jumps through to the boundary side corner. But this defensive tackle tries kind of a hump move back to the outside on Stanley. I think he's the only guy that would be able to handle this after initially setting up for what I would consider to be a down block. And then he seals the guy off. Huge lane in here for Henry, partially because Dallas Turner has, just dropped out by default. He didn't read anything. If he read something, you'd want him up near the line of scrimmage and then being able to maybe fold inside to be involved in half of the tackle on Henry. It's an 8-yard gain. I just love this play because we had just given him 21 personnel, slot ram and slot lion, 4 plays in a row. First play of the third quarter, we come out in 11 personnel. The backside tight end is Mark Andrews. There's the OLB Turner, who should be the read man, and in this case he steps out, not reading anything at all. Reading, what I mean is he should be looking at Ronnie Stanley and responding to that run read, that run action by Stanley. As it stands, though, because of the look that they're in, perhaps he feels like he needs to be out here. There's only 3 receivers for the Ravens, so numbers-wise, the Vikings have it covered with those 3. I think Dallas Turner is stepping out here because by default, that's what they do when they bring both inside linebackers. Again, I did a preview of this game. I'm talking about a lot of the things that they did against the Detroit Lions, and oftentimes they were just bringing both inside linebackers, and dropping both OLBs out. Same stunt here, used on the first play of the fourth quarter. Again, if I was a Vikings fan, I'd be a little bit disappointed that this is the answer we came up with to open the fourth quarter, but it wasn't 21 personnel, and they obviously knew that before the snap. 2nd and 2 after that 8-yard run by Henry. You guessed it, 21 personnel. So we motion across one more time. Only this time, Ricard sets up in the eye. It's only a 1-yard gain, and this is the first time I think Henry falls down. He actually trips over Kolar's foot. We'll go slow motion here so you can see it. You can see it right there. Henry's right foot, I think, is on Kolar's left foot. Kolar is engaging Dallas Turner. I think it's a nice job by Rosengarten. The only problem is because of the way that the Vikings play this with 55, it forces Linderbaum to work up to him. And so it's just kind of a trickle-down effect. Because Linderbaum deals with 55 and Rosengarten is helping Filele here, there is a lane. You can see the lane that's created for Ricard and then Henry. It's compressed a little bit because Kolar doesn't get any expansion. But what it really means is 51's unblocked. Cashman is just totally unblocked. That's the whole point of designing your defense, right? Is that you want to get the Mike linebacker or backside linebacker unblocked. That's how you stop run plays. In this case, Cashman is the backside linebacker. He's unblocked. Could have been a bigger gain for us, obviously. We only are able to get 1 yard. Like I said, Henry obviously tripped over Kolar's foot. Same play from the all-22 angle. Henry in the backfield. Functionally ends up being the eye. A couple of plays from now, we'll actually use Ricard to kind of try to elicit a reaction from the Vikings defense. But in any case, the 3 technique is what really makes it tough here. I'm talking about getting to this guy, right? If we're not going to be able to either combo to him or just allow Ricard to lead up to this guy, the frontside inside linebacker. But because the frontside inside linebacker basically blitzes, he goes downhill, Linderbaum takes him, and then when Ricard works up, he's got no work except for Metellus, the safety, the boundary side safety. So Cashman totally unblocked on the play. Nice stunt. Nice blitz, by by the Vikings. Again, I think they were pretty fortunate that Henry tripped over Kolar's foot or ankle, and it sets up a 3rd and 1. Very next play, as you can see, is a 3rd and 1, and Monken and the Ravens are definitely trying to elicit some type of reaction from the Vikings. I'm rewinding and fast-forwarding this a little bit for effect so you can see it. First of all, Minnesota's in their goal line look. Normally in their goal line look, they take Van Ginkel and set him to the field, and then they go with 5 defensive linemen, 5 actual defensive linemen. So the only outside linebacker on the field is Van Ginkel, along with 2 inside linebackers, Cashman and Eric Wilson. It's a 22 personnel group. I would just say this is zone kick. Kolar and Rosengarten kind of get the end sealed, and Kolar also does a nice job of working up to Wilson, the front side inside linebacker. Ricard and Henry read it. You can see them abruptly, kind of almost a jump stop by Ricard to the outside, and then Henry slides there. Really nice move, if you ask me, by Ricard to get out in front and then peel back onto Cashman. The only problem is Henry slides on his left foot. I think he's angling back to the inside. Because he thinks that everything is closed off in here. That's actually not the case. Wilson is there. But I think that's what he's trying to read, and that's why he's trying to cut so abruptly, because he thinks there's a bigger lane in here than maybe there actually is. We still get the first down out of 22 personnel, but the ending obviously looked ugly. Again, I think they're playing games with Ricard here. Setting him up in Lion, moving him over to Ram, and then finally settling him in the I position. It's a goal line look one more time, like I said, and keep that in mind because Monken totally manipulates them on the touchdown pass to Mark Andrews down here at the end of the drive. In their goal line look, they've really only got one corner on the field. It's Murphy. Metellus is, he's whatever they want him to be. He plays some safety, inside linebacker at times. Really here, he's the other corner in what looks to me like a 6'2 look. So that would be your 6'2", 6 defensive linemen, 2 inside linebackers, 2 corners, one of them Metellus, one of them Murphy, and then your lone free safety would be Harrison Smith. We're so boundary side focused on this drive that they've got Harrison Smith set up to the boundary, and we end up getting almost a 2-for-1 here with Zay. So Zay is moving up to the safety, Harrison Smith, and because Murphy's playing man, you kind of have to in this goal line look, he actually goes with him for a moment, and man, the edge looks really soft here with Kolar sealing his guy down, Ricard looping to the outside, and then peeling back to get Cashman. It looked so ugly, I was worried that Henry was a little bit hurt. In any case, you can see the manipulation that's occurred so far. 21 personnel running into the boundary or play action pass on 1st and 10. 22 personnel, you guessed it, run into the boundary, but there's a larger point there, in my opinion. We're running away from Van Ginkel. Van Ginkel is the overhang outside linebacker, if you will, set to the field when they go with their goal line look. This is now the 8th play of the drive. Again, it's 22 personnel, and again, you see Van Ginkel set to the field with what obviously looks like 5 defensive linemen and 2 inside linebackers. So once again, I think we could call this their 6-2. 22 personnel group, compressed formation, and Wilson's going to come downhill. He's going to be assigned to be blocked by Tylan Wallace. Tylan Wallace may be actually checking the defensive end first, but it looks like he kind of is aware of the fact that Wilson stepped up, so he goes to engage him. Of course, that's not a matchup that's in our favor, right? I like the toss into the boundary. It's been great for us. Only problem is, in this case, Harrison Smith folds over the top, the safety, and I think that's Murphy, the corner, as the force player, so they've got some triangulation. We still get 6 yards out of it. It's a productive play. Don't get me wrong, really cool slide by Ricard at the end of it to end in a seated position. I'm going to skip the end zone angle of this one. It should be pretty obvious right now that we're attacking the boundary quite intentionally on this drive, more so than we had pretty much throughout the rest of the game. The very next snap, we've taken Henry off the field for once, and Keaton Mitchell's in the game. I think we're trying to score here. It's another 22 personnel group, so I would call this wing I. So Likely and Kolar are the tight ends set to the field, and the two running backs are Mitchell and Ricard. I do want to note Mitchell's alignment versus Ricard's. If you want to do a straight line for where the ball is, roughly in that area, maybe it's actually a little bit further over this way. Look at Mitchell being off the midline and Ricard slightly being forward of it, or more to our left, but his right. It's a toss play into the boundary. I think this is to account for the speed that Mitchell has versus Ricard and even Derrick Henry. It's a nice job, if you ask me, by Wallace of at least taking the angle to try to go get 55. We're talking about right here, but the problem is, again, it's a mismatch in the Vikings' favor. So as he steps down to go get Wilson, what we want is him to be able to pin Wilson inside, Ricard to go get the corner who's off screen down here to you guys left. You guys can't see him. That doesn't occur, though, because Wilson muddies the whole thing up. So he gets in Ricard's way. Ricard can't get to the corner enough. So, they've also got inside-out pursuit from, you guessed it, the backside inside linebacker, Cashman. So they hold this one down to only a 2-yard gain. I'm just glad that we got Mitchell in there in the fourth quarter. I know he had a fumble earlier in the game on like a 9-yard gain out to the right side. So brilliant manipulation, in my opinion, has occurred already. Perhaps I haven't done a great job of explaining it. This one should be obvious. All right, first of all, so it's 3rd and 2. I don't think we're going to go tight end sneak or tush push here, but we put Andrews under center. It does look like, maybe he actually gives a little bit of a count. I'm not sure. Goal line look from the Vikings once again. Metellus has now walked up in the box. You can see Wilson has set up as an edge defender to the left. Van Ginkel one more time set to the field. We are on the 9-yard line, by the way, and I love the movement here. First of all, by Andrews. And check out what they do not do. This guy doesn't move back. 55 doesn't move back at all, even after Henry shifts. So I think that Monken 3 times on this drive has taken advantage of the fact that one of their second-level players is oftentimes set up as an edge defender to the boundary. One of their inside linebackers, I should say. If 55's feet were here, somewhere in this area, then 51 could be moved over, and that would certainly help him on this QB sweep that I think we all knew was coming once Henry motioned over. You've got all kinds of things that we can run here. Zone read with these two, dual read with Lamar possibly giving it and likely moving the other way. Really, the running back would need to be on the other side. QB power read, QB sweep pass. This is just good old-fashioned QB sweep, and we get so many guys out in front because it's a nice job of Kolar blocking down on this. Really, I would say that's a defensive tackle. Lined up as a 5 technique, then you got to refer to him as a defensive end, but I think positionally, he's a defensive tackle. Again, they're in the goal line look. Really nice job of Kolar pinning that guy down, first of all. Second of all, look at all these guys out in front. It's Linderbaum, it's Stanley, it's Likely, Henry, athletes, guys who are athletic. It's a really spectacular play by Isaiah Rodgers. Set up off the right side. Have to give him credit. This could have very easily been a touchdown. He gets blocked by Likely, ends up on the ground for a moment, bounces back up immediately, and makes a ridiculous football play. I've seen his film all year. I think he's playing at a super high level. I do have one more observation about this play outside of how Rodgers was able to thwart a touchdown. Of course, that jump by Lamar is the thumbnail for this video. At a certain point in this play, watching it from the end zone angle, once I got the film on Monday morning, it reminded me of Ed Reed and Landry out in front after an interception. I think it's a play where Reed kind of pitches the ball back to Landry or someone, and there's like 3 guys leading out in front for him at the time that he scores. It's against Miami, I believe, down on the road. That's just what I saw here the first time with all of these guys out in front. Just a really cool play design, in my opinion. I get it. Other fan bases are going to have things they want to say about using your quarterback as a runner on 3rd and 2. I mean, Jackson Dart and the Giants, they ran the same play 5 times. It's what ended up getting him hurt. It's brilliant. We didn't use Lamar as the starter, the middleman, and the closer on this drive. He's the closer now, clearly. We've got down here. The only wide receiver on the field is Tylan Wallace. We're not running to his side. Even though Minnesota kind of thinks we are. They've got Wilson walked up as an edge defender, Metellus lined up as a safety. To me, numbers-wise, they're far outnumbered to the field. I would not recommend counting numbers like this, but if you were to count just outside of Rosengarten, we have one player outside of Rosengarten into the boundary. It's Tyler Wallace. They have 4. So that could lead to the conclusion that Monken's done a really great job of manipulating them with heavier personnel groups. In this situation, once we go bunch A, I don't know about you, I was like, okay, I think this is quarterback sweep or maybe QB sweep pass. There's the lead blockers out in front. It's a lot of fun to watch, if you ask me. They just don't have enough guys to defend once we get up on them. You can see that even Andrews has worked back to the outside. Could have easily been a touchdown. Great job by Rodgers, like I said, to thwart it. And then even more manipulation from a personnel standpoint and a motion and or a shift. So we start off here in 23 personnel down on the goal line. I think we're on the 2 or just outside of it. So we got 1 tight end here, 2 more tight ends here, Ricard and Henry in the backfield. I would call that 23 personnel. And then we're going to shift into trips. I do not believe that the Vikings can structurally defend trips from their goal line look, which is what they're in, by the way. With the ball in this hash, Van Ginkel set to the field as the only edge defender. There's your 5 defensive linemen. 2 inside linebackers in the form of Wilson and Cashman. We shift, Van Ginkel walks out. It's going to look like QB sweep. I think we all knew as Ravens fans the opportunity was here for QB sweep pass. Another thing I really like about this is Ricard is now set up as a tight end. And we, of course, have some tendencies or patterns to run to his side. We're going away from that. Metellus is assigned to guard him in their goal line look. That's who else would guard him? You know, an outside linebacker, edge defender? Typically not. Possibly an inside linebacker at times. So I think what we've done here is got them confused. You can see Metellus, who's a very smart and versatile player, is unsure of where to go. In addition, over on the front side, I don't think Harrison Smith plays it really well, in my opinion. You kind of got a view of Kolar down here on the bottom left portion of your screen, setting up as essentially a snag concept, the angled hook. Lamar doesn't choose that, throws it over the top of him to Mark Andrews, some style points there, if you will, the way that he falls to make the catch. Lamar's only touchdown on the day. He only threw for, I think, 176 yards. I thought this was brilliant play calling, but the sequencing of plays illustrates that Monken and whoever else was involved, they were patient. We weren't trying to score in 2 plays. I'm not saying this is the type of offense the Ravens got to be all the time, but knowing that we have this option or this approach, perhaps is a better word, it's a good thing to go to at least 2 or 3 times a game. This situation took the life out of the stadium, in my opinion, putting us up 27-13 eventually. This is the same play we've already shifted and put Henry offset to Lamar's right. Second play in a row, by the way. Because of Metellus being forced to defend Ricard, he's unsure of whether he should go defend trips. I don't think they can defend trips adequately unless Metellus comes over here. So if Metellus comes over here to match up with Likely, and then Van Ginkel and Harrison Smith, they might believe, okay, we've got 3 to defend 3 along with an inside linebacker. They don't have that. Metellus doesn't move over. In addition, I think Harrison Smith initially was worried about this flat route by Isaiah Likely, and as such, he doesn't defend Mark Andrews at all. Andrews ends up being wide open. It's a brilliant throw from Lamar. You know, easy. I should say, you shouldn't say easy catch. A simple throw and catch to make for Lamar, moving to his right as a right-handed quarterback. Has a lane. Maybe Kolar is in the lane, but delivers it quickly, and it's not in 5th gear from a speed and velocity standpoint. You know, gives Andrews the chance to make an easy catch, put us up 25-13. There's a lot to like. I mentioned it already, but Lamar as a finisher, he didn't have to be the starter, the middle reliever, and the closer all at the same time. Relying on Derrick Henry, even though the run game had not been successful, had not been dominant, of course, in the first half. I think he was 9 carries for 30 yards, or maybe 9 carries for 33 yards in the opening 30 minutes. The angles that were created for the offensive line and the tight ends because of the personnel and formation manipulation, that was sick. The commitment to running into the boundary with Henry and Mitchell. And then if you notice, both times here, the last 2 plays I've showed you, For Lamar, it was to the field. Lamar is, extremely athletic, very fast, not as fast as Mitchell at this point, but compare the concepts and the location for where we ran the football. QB sweep with Lamar on 3rd and 2, to the field. QB sweep pass, kind of the last one, the touchdown pass to Andrews, to the field. Versus all those runs you saw from Henry and Mitchell into the boundary, generally to our right. Really cool if you ask me. Now, the Vikings defense did get 2 stops to finish the game, but here I think we had them frustrated. I'm going to show you the 2-point conversion. On the 2-point conversion, we chose to put the ball on the left hash, and you can see that one of their inside linebackers, Eric Wilson, once again is lined up as an OLB into the boundary along with Dallas Turner. So we took advantage of that multiple times by either running at them or running the zone kind of away from it, if you will, the wind-back zone I'm talking about with Henry. Justice Hill does not choose to pick up Wilson as a blitzer, so that allows Wilson to get a free lane to Lamar. It doesn't matter. Quick flip. Lamar's at the height of his powers. Maybe our offensive line is nowhere near what we all would like to see. But from an execution standpoint, Lamar can do it all. And here, just with a free rusher, whips a sidearm throw perfectly to Rashad Bateman. Again, I like to give the end zone angle sometimes as a changeup. It's 21 personnel, by the way. Ricard is on the field, set to the bunch to the bottom side with Andrews and with Flowers. So we clearly could throw the football to the field or perhaps try to execute a zone read. My suspicion is that's why Wilson is oftentimes walking up to the side of the back. Basically, the idea would be if we run a zone read with Hill crossing Lamar's face, this OLB would run down the line of scrimmage to essentially, for Lamar, force a keep read. And then Wilson would be assigned to quarterback. They could do it the other way. Turner could drastically or violently go upfield, and Wilson could run underneath. So to me, I'm wondering if against some of the shotgun stuff, that's why the Vikings were doing that. But it is a part of their base defensive structure. Again, they did it last week against the Lions a ton. If you guys watched my preview that I put out, I think Saturday morning, you would have noticed that. But in any case, it's slant, flat, kind of, for Bateman. Lamar is definitely looking down here initially. Metellus has turned his back to focus on Andrews while Van Ginkel blitzes. So they're bringing pressure, forcing us to get rid of it quick. Mistake on their part from the standpoint of Lamar at the height of his powers, the ability to, he just doesn't get nervous at all. I mean, every moment it seems like he's prepared for, whether it's in a press conference, whether it's in a game. A lot to like about this drive. I know this is a long video, so my apologies for that if you guys don't enjoy the long content. First, so many guys touch the football. Andrews with the touchdown. Bateman, the 2-point conversion. Henry, I think, had 5 touches on this drive, maybe 6 or 7. I could be wrong. Mitchell got the 1 carry into the boundary where, again, I think we're trying to score, but it's a safe play. It's a toss with Ricard leading, so theoretically we shouldn't lose yards on the 2nd and 4. Lamar on the 3rd and 2 might be my favorite play in this drive because we did so much to hide it from them. First of all, the 13 personnel group and Andrews under center. Don't think we were actually going to run tush-push tight end sneak. And then we go QB sweep, and the guys block it well. Linderbaum and Stanley, our most athletic offensive linemen, out in front, along with Likely and Henry. Only a spectacular play from Isaiah Rodgers prevented the touchdown there. So many guys blocking well. No pancakes by the offensive line or tight end necessarily here. But for the most part, they were executing. It's about time because in the first half, we were getting whipped, in my opinion. I love the usage of the same personnel and formation, 4 plays in a row to finish the 3rd quarter, and then returning back to it, I think, on the 2nd offensive snap of the 4th quarter. The patience to me, oh, by the way, Hopkins had a catch as well that we showed in this video is so long ago that I forgot about it, but the patience that Monken demonstrated, as well as the 2 play action passes on 1st and 10, I think we set them up. This, to me, seemed like, when you watch it in succession, for me at least, it seemed like a rehearsed drive. And I don't know if NFL teams do this, but we used to, okay, what plays would we call if we can't run the ball? What plays would we call if we can't run the ball to the left? If we can only use boundary side plays, if we can only succeed out of 21 personnel or 11, what would we call? This, to me, almost looked like a rehearsal executed on the field. Not that the players would participate in something like that, the coaches would. How could we get things done if we were limited to only these personnel groups and only these calls. It seemed like a very specific approach. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. But the last sequence, I have to admit, the quarterback sweep to Lamar and then the touchdown pass to Andrews, they do feel like Harbaugh plays. I don't mean John Harbaugh plays. You know, the John and Jim Harbaugh, both, and Greg Roman, have used the QB sweep and the QB sweep pass for years. The first time I saw it, that I remember it, was in Denver in 2001 to open the fourth quarter. A touchdown pass to Andrews. There's a really needless hold called on the backside left tackle. He's a backup, maybe a second or third string guy. We've, of course, had, I think, 2 different touchdown passes to Likely over the years on the QB sweep pass. My point is, I have to give credit to the Harbaugh approach if those were actually his play calls. They might not have been his play calls through the microphone, because we know that Monken is the guy communicating with Lamar, but conceptually, those are concepts that the Harbaugh brothers have used, definitely in the last 4 or 5 years that I've been aware of, at least. In any case, if you guys enjoyed the video, please let me know in the comment section, number 1. Number 2, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this look at our 10th possession, where we take a 27-13 lead, although this one's very exhaustive and long form, if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy it, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.